Alrighty. Welcome, early visitors. Pleasure to have you. We'll be waiting for Anousheh to plug in here, and we'll be having her join in a moment. Hello from around the world. Coming on just in a microsecond. Hello there.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
I am great. Good to see you.
Great to see you.
Yeah, as always. So exciting times and adventures ahead. Not as exciting as your launch to orbit, but
no comparison.
But I think about a couple of thoughts right now. One is that this is the first time that the human race has had this single focused attention on one thing. I mean, I don't think there's ever been, maybe during wartime, there's been a single focus. Maybe during the Apollo program, there's been a single focus on one global event. But this is also, interestingly, the first time we've ever had a singular enemy on the planet. So that's a big deal. Anousheh, I thought as people are coming on, by the way, let me just mention to everybody who's coming in, we have a team that's tracking all of your questions, and I'm seeing them as they come in, and we're going to really focus in on answering any questions that you have. I see we have the Persian community from around the world coming in to join. I feel a kindred spirit as an adjacency with my Greek community, but anyway. So we'll be tracking all the questions and we'll be answering them. But I would love to kick off, Anousheh, with sort of take people's minds off of COVID-19 and just talk about the cool stuff we're working on at the Xprize outside of the pandemic. We'll talk about then a few of the things that we're working on inside. But let's talk about what are the active prizes right now. And yeah.
Of course. So we have 4 active prizes. We have 2 that are coming to an end. They're going to, well, we were planning to award them very shortly, but I think with what's happening, the teams are having trouble getting to the test center, so we may have to delay that. But we have the IBM AI for Good prize that we were planning to announce the winners on the TED stage, so that has been delayed now. And we have also the ANA Avatar Xprize, which is an ongoing competition. We also have the NRG COSIA Carbon Xprize. And the interesting thing is all 3 prizes that are active, we have teams that have focused a lot of their attention now to see if any of their technologies can somehow help with the situation at hand. And Airco, for example, one of the teams on the NRG COSIA competition, they were producing vodka from CO2 that they were capturing.
Yeah, vodka could definitely help the situation.
But they thought maybe something more useful would be hand sanitizer. So they started producing hand sanitizer and distributing it in New York City. The ANA team actually started some very early prototype versions of the ANA Avatar. They started using it in hospitals, sort of as a telemedicine unit in hospitals in Japan. So we see a lot of creativity. And one of the prizes that we announced recently that we're in team recruiting phase is our Rainforest Xprize. So we're very excited about that. And it's just at the beginning. So if there are any enthusiasts out there who want to save the rainforest, you should definitely check out our website and join as a team.
Yeah, let me take a second and slow these down. First of all, I'm just seeing the incredible amount of love for you from around the world. So I want to just say I'm an early member of the Anousheh is Amazing Club, and anyway, so I feel so blessed to have you as my partner here at Xprize and also as the leader of our organization. So thank you for all that you're doing. So slowing this down just a little bit, the NRG COSIA Carbon Xprize, we had asked teams to build a device that attaches to the smokestack, if you would, of a coal plant or a natural gas plant, and then pulls the CO2 out of the smokestack at concentration, at pressure, at high temperature, and then produces a product more valuable than the cost of extraction, so that you make being good to the environment a profit center for a energy plant. And so we had incredibly a facility built in Wyoming by Matt Mead, the past governor, and up in I'm blanking up in Canada. In which, what's that?
In Gillette, Wyoming.
Wyoming, but in the province in Canada that has the
Alberta, Canada.
Alberta. Thank you. Apologies to my fellow Canadians out there. And so that's nearing, you know, we're down to 10 finalists thereabouts in each facility, and we'll be awarding that. The Avatar Xprize is fascinating. So the leadership of All Nippon Airways, ANA, called and said, hey, what's going to make the airplane obsolete so we don't need to move our meat bodies. I love that term that came from Scott Hassan, our meat bodies from location to location. And the first question they asked is, can you use teleportation? And I reached out to Harry Clore and he said nothing more than subatomic particles. But the idea of teleporting a person is not here yet. But could you use a robot to do that? And so that's what we're building. The teams around the world. Do you know how many teams we have now in Anousheh by any chance? It's like on the order of 80 to 100, I think.
Yes, we started with 100. I don't know if all 100 are still in the race, but I think we have 30 that are very, very active.
And so they're building a robot where if you're at home, like we are now, you put on a VR goggles, you put on a haptic suit, for your arms and hands and so forth. And the robot at a distance, as you look around, the robot's looking around. As you shake someone's hand with the robot, you feel like they're shaking your hand, that sort of thing. And you can imagine that physical robotic avatar being used for medical work, emergency work, and so forth. So that's that one. And then the third one you mentioned that's active right now, the AI Xprize. Yeah. And so we're down to a small number of finalists. Whenever TED occurs, if it's July or virtual, those finalists will present how AI human collaboration is working together to solve a grand challenge. And then the TED community will vote. And that's been a total of a $5 million prize. Yeah.
Yes, and there are two other prizes that I want to mention. They're past prizes, but the reason I want to mention them is because a lot of our teams, past teams, have also joined our community. We create an Xprize family that goes beyond just the competition itself and the awarding of it. And Cloud DX, for example, is one of the teams that came out of the Qualcomm Tricorder Xprize. And they were actually experimenting with their technology on a mobile device in in Mozambique, to detect TB using the app and cough. And because of COVID-19, they're also now trying to expand their research and try to see if the cough can be detected, a source of detection for COVID-19.
Yeah.
And we have the Global Learning Xprize team that stepped up and provided remote learning now for a lot of kids that are at home, and they're now collaborating with schools in LA to provide distant learning. So I see a lot of our community coming together at this time. So I'm blessed to be part of the family, and see how everyone's just holding hand and trying to do what they can to be of help to the community that they live in.
Yes, and I see the comments still rolling, and we love you, Anousheh, and we do.
I have to say, Peter, you know, we're a very global organization. Xprize, a very global organization. Our teams come from around the world. The NRG COSIA finalists, one team is from India, one team was from China. We had 2 teams from US, and we had 2 teams from Canada. So there's a global team that competes, and we get attached to the global team. And right now, as you said, this is a problem that has brought everyone together, and everyone wants to know how we come together and solve it as a united nation.
Human race.
Nation.
Yeah.
Human race. And space is something that unites us. And this is another thing. A pandemic united us the same way, which is odd.
So every year, everybody, we have an event that occurs in Los Angeles called Visioneering. It's typically a 3-day event. It's around the anniversary of the winning of the Ansari Xprize, which is October 4th. And we pull together a group of individuals, typically 300-400 people, and we debate, we discuss what are the prizes we should be doing? What should we be solving? And after the last Visioneering we did, which was hosted at Paramount Studios by one of our trustees, Jim Giannopoulos, I proposed a topic for this coming Visioneering, which is now scheduled for October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. If physical events are still a thing, we'll find out. And the board agreed, Anousheh and the team agreed, and it was addressing humanity's existential threats. Because the notion is that we're not addressing the biggest existential threats. What does that mean? These are events that could wipe out the human race. And now that we have the means, the access to technology and tools and knowledge to actually do something about the biggest problems, it's, I think, a moral and ethical imperative that we do those things. And so we had identified 3 or 4 major topics, pandemics being one, which is now all the rage. We had these conversations, last November, December. Another existential threat that people are not talking about, that we need to be using all of our cognitive surplus and capital to be thinking about things like this, is an asteroid impact, right? There are millions of asteroids that come near the Earth, and they come many times very close to the Earth, within the Earth-Moon distance of 240,000 miles. And in history, we know this, that every 100 years, every 1,000 years, every 10 million years or so, there are different size events. It's a statistical probability. And so we don't have the ability right now to sufficiently detect those impacts and prevent it from happening. And so that's one thing that we need to do. Other topics include the fragility of our energy grid. Imagine if there was an energy grid from either an EMP or something like that, that knocked out energy for, months. That would be devastating. Nuclear-related elements, environmental and species collapse, and terrorism and hate crimes. I mean, those are existential threats on a global scale that we need to think about. So I hope that humanity and our leadership will start to change, right? We saw Bill Gates give a great TED Talk on pandemics in 2015, showing exactly what we have. And by the way, for everyone listening, I should just say, I consider this pandemic a wake-up call and more of a practice pandemic than as bad as it could be. And for anyone who's got family that have been hurt or injured, my heart goes out to you, but it could be a lot worse than it is, right? In terms of mortality rate, it could be closer to a 30% or 40% or 50% mortality rate, which would really make a death sentence. So how do we not let this happen again?
Yeah, I think it's important it is very real, but it is a wake-up call. And one thing that we don't do well as human beings is we don't learn from our lessons, and we've had SARS that we dealt with, we've had other pandemics, but it seems like we come together and we, you know, try to attack the problem at hand, and then when it's gone, and we have some learning, but we don't create an infrastructure that protects us next time that something like this happens. So one of the things we're hoping to do at Xprize is to create that sort of like an early warning system, if you would. We have weather early warning system when there is a hurricane or a you know, tornado coming, but we don't have one for a outbreak of a pandemic. So hopefully, as part of the work that we're doing with creation of an alliance of large corporation, lots of researchers, and the crowd that will join us with their innovation and ideas, we can create maybe in future a early warning system that will tell us that all the conditions seems to be right for a pandemic breakout. So, you know, start testing, start paying attention,
Yeah.
and don't let it get out of hand.
Along those lines, there's the opportunity for us to be actually doing rapid RNA and DNA sequencing of viral particles that come through air handling systems at airports, or the bathrooms at airports and so forth, and at bus stations and train stations. And really, when the system detects a novel genomic sequence that wasn't seen before, transmitting that at the speed of light to labs around the world. I mean, those sorts of things are very possible. I'm seeing all of these requests for you to speak a little Persian, Anousheh.
I will at the end. I will. Okay. I'm so touched that everyone's joining. A lot of them, I'm sure, they're joining from Iran, and it's very late. It's one of Iran is one of the places where the pandemic has hit very hard. So my heart goes to people who are living with very little means of battling the problems at hand. Very little medical supply under sanctions. So it's very difficult situation there. So I'm hoping that the international community is providing enough aid and support for people in Iran and other. There are lots of countries that really are not blessed with resources. So I think we need to remember how we not only take care of ourselves, but also provide aid to people who are in underdeveloped situation, countries where medical resources are very scarce.
Agreed. Anousheh, let's talk about the Xprizes that are in the pipeline right now. Then we'll talk about what Xprize is doing in the wake of COVID-19.
So right now, a lot of our work has been focused in the past year or two around environmental issues, because even with the pandemics, when you look at the underlying cause of a lot of the issues we're seeing, it goes back to environmental issues and climate change. So we've been looking at prizes around clean and sustainable sources of meat and food for billions of people as population grows. We've been looking at same thing around water and providing clean sources of water as we hit water scarcity in some locations. We are looking at a lot of different areas around clean air, for example, or mining situations where there is a lot of waste created, how we can clean waste out of the mining practices. We're looking at a lot of regenerative agriculture and other ways that we can create, take waste out of the system, basically create circular economies, circular systems where we can have, basically have our cake and eat it too. So enjoy the lifestyle that we like, but create ways that we don't generate so much waste and not need to then come up with solutions for the problems we've created because of the waste we generated. So those are some of the problems. But the biggest one that I'm very excited, there are two that I'm very excited about. One is around the largest carbon prize that we are looking to launch. We had a lot of great support already before the pandemic started. and I hope that we will continue to get that support afterwards. But it's around actually extracting carbon out of the atmosphere at the gigaton level. And that is something that's absolutely necessary for us to be able to combat the climate change issue. Because even switching to sustainable energy sources at 100% won't really get us out of the situation we created for ourselves. So that's one that we're very excited about. It's going to be a $150 million prize with a lot of actually early stage milestones where we give some of that money to the teams, to a large number of teams early on to develop the technologies. And the other one is something that we're working on around AI and data. And it's focused on the gender data gap. And it's something that I'm passionate about because I know how AI is going to revolutionize the way we live and do everything. It will be incorporated. It's already incorporated in a lot of things. We don't even notice it, but it will be incorporated in a lot of the way we make decisions and we work and live. And I think the data sets that we're using for machine learning are not sufficiently diverse. And I'm hoping that through this competition or a series of competition, we will be able to first create awareness where those gaps are and to actually be able to generate the data needed to create complete diverse data sets for the AI and machine learning systems.
I guess when I want to hit this, because I think it's really important, for the first time in human history, we're also in a position where we can solve problems, right? And I think that's something that's very different that people need to realize. It's when we saw pandemics in the past, when we saw world problems in the past, our ability to actually address those problems was so limited, so weak. And we now have the ability to actually use a global response, catalyze the world's knowledge and information and focus on it. And I love the fact that while we have this singular enemy in COVID-19, for example, that we have, my estimate is somewhere between 100 million and 200 million scientists, physicians, nurses, technologists, all like, what can I do to address and solve this problem? So that is a transformative difference. I think another point to make, and I was in a session that with Daniel Kraft, as you were, and we saw Larry Brilliant speaking, and Larry Brilliant's amazing. He headed Google.org. He's the man, the physician responsible at the World Health Organization of getting rid of smallpox. And he reminds us that a lot of the increasing pandemics that we're seeing is a result of humanity's impact on the environment. That as warming temperatures are going up, it's creating a more friendly environment for viruses, and also as we are encroaching on more and more forests and rainforests and such, that the animals are now moving out into our domain, and we're seeing this increased rate of infection. Do you want to chat 1 second about what we're doing with Anthem?
Yes. So as an organization, we normally focus on very large competitions and big problems that faces humanity, and try to bring a lot of attention, focus, and a lot of innovation from around the globe to solve those problems. In this situation, since it was something that was happening now, we had to change our model and see how we can just use all the experience and the network that we've built over the past 25 years and bring that to bear and create something meaningful in helping to find the solutions we need for addressing problems now, but also with an eye toward the future of how we can actually prevent pandemics to start happening in the future. So Anthem approached us, and they were also trying to look at how we can address the needs of all the different countries and different medical facilities and people who are being impacted, and wanted to do a competition.
And Anthem is a large-scale health insurance company.
health insurance company, yes. So with Anthem, what we did is we launched an alliance and an invitation, an open invitation to any organization, institution, researcher, individuals who is working on solutions and answers to the problem, whether it's testing, whether it's vaccines, whether it's just prediction models, to come and join forces with us. And Anthem, as part of that, has provided a very large set of data from anonymized data that they're making available to the researchers to help them with the research they're doing, which they haven't done in the past. Is something new they're making available. And also, we're also, through the help of the networks that we collectively bring to the table, creating a marketplace of matching needs and resources. So if the researchers, for example, have an idea and they need samples to test their ideas, or if they need a lab to test it, or if they're stuck in some area and they need a data scientist to help them. So we're trying to bring resources that can help get those solutions to the market faster. So that marketplace is being put in place right now. We've announced our pandemic alliance about 3 days ago, and we have a website, covid19.xprize.org, where you can go and get more information and join us, whether you want to share your data and research or be part of another team and collaborate with us on a research, or if you have resources you want to offer or have a question or ideas you want to share with us, we would love for everyone to join.
I just wanted to report to the community here a couple of other things, if I could. One is, and so first of all, thank you to Anthem for doing that. And doing data prizes is really valuable. We're going to start to do a lot more data prizes at Xprize, just because the right data set can, in fact, drive an algorithm or an insight that can transform and solve issues. There was a lot of questions about whether we would do a ventilator Xprize, and we came very close with our incredible Xprize team to doing that. We had a sponsor that we're in conversations with, and a set of rules, but as it turns out, this global response to ventilator manufacturing was so fast and so immediate that one of the things we're always talking about is, we don't want an Xprize to be sort of, an Xprize needs to change behavior, meaning if people are going to do it anyway, we don't want to be, kissing the winners in the winner's circle, so to speak. We want to have been the purpose for which a team came together and looked at something differently. So we chose not to go after a ventilator Xprize. We are looking at, other prize ideas. And Anousheh, I have one to pitch you right now. So it's a prize idea that I had a while ago, but it now seems better than ever, which is this would be a prize for the team to create a conference experience, a virtual conference experience that's considered better than going to the event itself. Right? So
is Cisco working on this, or all the?
Well, I think
working on this?
I think my friend Chuck Robbins, who's the CEO of Cisco, could fund this thing. But Zoom is doing a great job, as their stock ticker price definitely indicates, as is Slack and a few others. But the question becomes, could you create a virtual experience that actually maybe it's using VR, maybe it's using maybe it's using avatars, who knows? It's actually better than going there in person. So I think, one of the things I think about a lot is how will the world fundamentally change? It's changing, but the notion that we're going to go back to everything as normal a year from now is unlikely to be the case. So what is the new normal? And as we've all said, crisis equals opportunity as well.
That's so true, because I think the length of the time we had to be in isolation, it's starting to change our behavior. And I know from experience that we adapt very quickly. So I think what will happen is later on we will have this fear of whether it's shaking someone's hand or hugging someone or getting close to people. And if there was a way for us to actually, you know, when you're in control and you have information, then you feel at ease. If there was any way we could give people information where they would feel safe and know that they're not in any danger, and make sure that they have good sources of information, actually, I think it will help make sure that those behaviors that we don't want to propagate past the pandemic, we won't, you know, become part of the society in the future. So anything that's fear-based, I think it's something that long-term will hurt the society more than it will help the society.
Yeah, agreed. We're coming up on the half hour. We're going to start taking your questions, so please post them. Talia on my team is doing a beautiful job populating a Google Doc that I've got in front of me, and we'll definitely plug into those. Let me take a second and just hit a few, because I'm just trying to get the word out there on what people should be doing and how they should be acting or protecting themselves in this time. The first is that your immunity level is really important, or I should say your immune system health is very important. The reason we're seeing the majority of deaths occurring in the elderly population, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, versus in the younger population is for one reason. Immune systems get weaker as you get older. So what can you do to make sure your immune system is at the highest level possible? It's the basics. It's sleep. And sleep, we all need, evolution requires us to have 8 hours of sleep. It's not 6 hours of sleep or 5 hours of sleep or 4 hours of sleep, 8 hours. So do your best. There's a great book by Matt Ridley called Why We Sleep, which I commend to all of you. So sleep, exercise, getting exercise every day, even if you're in your home, apartment, living room, whatever it is, getting some exercise every day. Mindset, meditation, positive mindset, not being stressed out. Stress levels definitely correlate with weakened immune systems, so meditate in that regard. Eating right, whole plant diet and such. I just saw this amazing video that came out of Cornell ICU by one of the top ICU doctors there. Anousheh, I think I might have shared it with you. If not, I'm going to send it to the whole Xprize staff. And it's more data on what's coming out. And the notion is that most of the transmission is occurring hand to mouth. So we all do this subconsciously, or, you know, I used to bite my nails. I'm trying to knock that out totally. So when you're going out, it's wearing gloves. If you're not wearing gloves, it's Purelling after you touch a surface. It's the touching of a surface and then touching that to a mucosal membrane. That is the major thing. A mask on you is really the biggest benefit of a mask, is keeping you from moving viral particles on your hands to your mouth. Sneezing and cough is airborne transmission, but it looks like the majority of all transmissions are occurring from hand to mouth in that regard. So anyway, I'll share that with the Xprize family. Another thing is mindset. It's like if you're sitting in front of CNN or Fox all day long, having that run on your TV, it is going to drain you of positive energy and hopeful energy. And I think we need that more than ever before. And so I think shut off the TV. You know, you can check the news for 5 minutes to see if there's anything that's affecting you. I ended up, and I'll share with community here, I ended up creating a machine learning platform called FutureLoop. And FutureLoop is I've been working on it for 3 years. It's free. It's available to anyone around the world. And what we do is we scan millions of articles per day, and we scan it for positive sentiment, future forward sentiment, looking for how exponential technologies are transforming an industry in a positive direction. And we created a version of it called futureloop.com/C19. And so every day, if you want this, it will give you all the positive news that's going on. And it shows you how machine learning and data science, or robots and drones and 3D printing, or CRISPR technology and gene therapy and anti-virals and vaccines, all the positive stuff coming in. And we just launched, interestingly enough, we just launched a prediction engine on it. And we did our first global poll of when will the first antivirals vaccine become available in the United States. And the poll that came out is showing that the prediction is that it will be before the end of the year, which would be great. It's 8.63 months is the average of the prediction is now. And about 23,000 people in this community making these predictions. So if it's of interest, check it out. It's just futureloop.com/C19. Shall we do some questions from the community, or do you want to add something before we jump into the questions?
No, maybe I'll just say something in Farsi, so
please.
The fellow Iranians who are on the line will enjoy that. سلام عرض میکنم به همه شما که از ایران به ما پیوستید در اینستاگرام لایو. خیلی خوشحالم که میتونم از این طریق باهاتون صحبت کنم و امیدوارم که همتون سالم و سلامت باشین و بمونین و از این پندمیک بتونین به سلامتی نجات پیدا کنین. مرسی.
And I appreciate I've been adopted by a few Persians out there as honorary Persian, and I appreciate that. So a few of the questions coming in here. Have you thought about a viral Corona Cup business models for a post-Corona world? And I think that's not necessarily Xprize's objective, but I do think all of us should be looking at, when you see a problem, how do you, as an entrepreneur, and anybody can be an entrepreneur, how do you flip it in your mind to say, okay, that's a problem, but it's also an opportunity for someone to solve. So let me read this. Here in Thailand, the first case was on 12th of January. Thousands of Chinese came on a holiday around the 20th of March after the global media hysteria spread. Numbers here in Thailand started rising. Is this a placebo effect? Is vitamin D the reason why the sunniest countries are less significant viral infection? I think the sunniest countries, these viruses do not like high radiation levels, whether it's UV from the sun, and they don't like higher temperatures. And so, as you know, the coronavirus is not something that's new. It's this specific version of the coronavirus. Coronaviruses cause the common cold. And so, yes, vitamin D, higher vitamin D levels, zinc, and things like that are valuable for you. But I think it's really a matter of density of the viral pandemic, and we'll see an exponential growth. For those of you who don't know exponentials, remember, you double something 1,000 times, double something 1,000 times, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, sorry, double something 10 times, it ends up 1,000 times bigger. Double it 20 times, it's 1,000,000 times. Double it 30 times, it's 1,000,000,000 times. Does the kind of disaster help us find new algorithms of human treatments in a better, let's see. So, let's see, as you know, other stars are empty from any kind of human like us. For this reason, are there new kinds of virus RNA living in areas? So, interestingly enough, let me translate that question. If we ever did go to a world which had life that developed independently of our evolutionary tree, how would it impact us? How would it affect us? We would have no immunity for a virus that infected human cells, but maybe those types of viruses, those life forms, would not have evolved to be able to infect us in the first place. But this is the whole reason why, as we are looking at missions to Mars to bring back samples, why there is a massive safety protocol around that before it's ever touched by human hands. Do you want to add anything about that, Anousheh?
Yeah, the thing that I wanted to add is something that I think is applicable here and then in the future, and as we hopefully we will get to our Star Trek world. We will be able to scan for all these things, but being able to scan and test for these things very easily at the point of contact, at the point of, you know, sort of when you encounter something would be really, really helpful. And I think if through the innovations that come out of the alliance that we formed or other places, that we end up with something that's very easy and simple, especially at the ports like airports. If you were going through your scanning devices as you're going through the security, it also scanned you for any viruses, for example. If it was able to detect something like that, it would be really helpful, especially when you have pandemics like this. I remember that after 9/11, there was this whole boom of all security technology, and all the airports updated their security system, and we have all these new devices now. So maybe in future we'll have new devices in airports. As people pass through it, it will be able to detect if it's high temperature, or other ways that we can really detect viruses better would be really helpful in stopping these from spreading around the globe.
A request for me to speak some Greek, and do I speak Greek? I do, but I grew up learning Greek from my grandmother and my mother, so I learned how to speak about cleaning the house more than science or technology. All right. So dispel a couple of myths here, a couple of questions that came up. Did 5G cause this virus? And the answer definitively is no. No, and please help, listen, 5G was released last year, but believe me, no correlation at all with this epidemic. Is 5G safe for people? We'll find out. But does it cause a virus to infect humans and such? No. No, this is we've seen so many viruses cross over from animals to humans over history. And it will not the first and not the last. Another question that's asked, is this a man-made virus? And again, everybody I've spoken to at the highest levels of virology and genomics have said no. We know what the sequence of this virus is. It's very clearly where it evolved from, exactly how it came. So this is not a man-made virus. Are you aware of any isothermal tests, Peter, that are not dependent on a high cost for the COVID detection? So there are a lot of tests coming out for understanding whether you're infected or not. There's the PCR tests. These are tests that are detecting, do you have the RNA virus in your sinus right now? And that's a nasal swab. And the problem with these is they have a high false negative rate, meaning you may have it, but it doesn't actually detect it because the nasal swab was done improperly, or the virus titers are not high enough. There are another set of tests that are called blood antibody tests, and these are checking, did your immune system actually see it? I'm involved in one company that just got financed and is rolling it out to large communities called COVAX, COVAXX, and we're working with governments to do large-scale testing across large populations or companies and such. And so we're going to see a explosion of diagnostics and also an explosion of vaccines and antivirals. And one of the things I think about is, because there's some people working on this, that we're seeing a few coming in now, but then we see this tsunami of solutions coming. Hopefully, I think in the next couple of months that will help address this. Who will educate respiratory therapists? Yeah, so when you ask that question, perhaps consider, it's a great business opportunity. Can you create, online courses, work with individuals to do that? So Anousheh, here's a question for you. Can individuals contribute to Xprize ideas?
Absolutely. So you can always do that through our website and share your ideas with us. You can do that through social media. We actually just a couple of days posted on both Twitter and Instagram, asked people to give us ideas for what we should work on at Xprize next. So definitely interested in your ideas. Please keep them coming.
Will this IG live be saved? And the answer is yes. It's going to be uploaded to YouTube, and it'll be shared across my social media channels, as I'm sure Anousheh will as well. What are the IP issues that possibly need to be addressed or managed differently to accelerate collaboration and scaling up manufacturing of new discoveries? So let's talk about intellectual property issues around this.
So there are a couple of different types of IP issues. One is around, for example, ventilator was a good example. People started printing 3D printed parts of the ventilators and just didn't care about the IP issues because it was a dire need. And I think a lot of companies in this situation have sort of allowed that to happen and given permission to basically use the IP license free. On the data side, you see that question also come up because we have, especially when you're talking about medical data, there's a lot of IP issues surrounding the medical data. So on our data collaborative, where we're asking everyone to come work together, whoever is contributing the data, they would tell us what the licensing is for that data, if there is such licensing, but they will give it for free to be available for the duration of the research. If anyone then later on can commercialize it, they would have to work out the licensing of the data they used in commercializing an idea. But just to the research, we're making all the data available for the teams competing.
How do you reduce the time for any drug to get to market by 10x? And that's a really important question. So a lot going on in this world. There is a friend of mine who is, his name is Dr. Alex Zevrankov. He's the CEO of In Silico Medicine. And what he's been building really is adversary machine learning AI neural networks that are modeling new drugs, new protein molecules, and modeling them in AI, in silico, in a computer, and then being able to actually create designs that work in simulation. And then, you know, he's taken the time for going from an idea or searching for a drug to a drug design to testing down probably 10x. But the place that's really going to make the biggest difference is going to be as we see quantum computing coming online, because quantum computers are going to be able to model complex living systems highly accurate. And so I think in this decade, between AI, machine learning, and quantum computers, we're going to start to see the ability to design a drug specifically for you, right? Each of us is unique in our genomic sequence, our microbiome, our physiology, our mindset, all of these things. And so how do you create a drug, N of one, that they call it, just for you? And so we're going to start to see this. We're going to have to reinvent the regulatory system a little bit, because right now the regulatory system is very slow. It values the lives lost if a drug comes out that has harmful effects. It doesn't value the lives lost waiting for a drug to come out. And that balancing system, we're going to have to figure out some changes there. Can you address, Anousheh, the difficulty in data availability for algorithm applications?
Yeah, so there's several different types of problem. One is data exists in silos and in small pockets, so people can actually drive better algorithm and insight when you have access to a multitude of data on different, you know, from different backgrounds and different types of data. The other problem is a lot of the data, especially open data, is not what we call clean. So it had, the sources are not identified, they're not tagged properly, so they're not ready to be used by machine learning algorithms. So those are some of the main problems with data. And then there's also the diversity issue I mentioned earlier, where they're incomplete sets of data. And through the data collaborative, we're trying to it address all these issues. So the data that we provide and allow to be on the platform has to have identifiable sources. It has to respect privacy and security issues. And we also don't open it up to the world if the owner of the data wants to only use the data for specific prize or the teams. So we respect all of those, which allows for people to actually give us the data. And I think as a trusted party, we've been blessed to be able to bring really these different types of sources of data together, because now that you have them layered on top of each other, then you can drive correlation between them and solve and see patterns that you were not able to see before.
We have a few young watchers here from 8 to 12, 13 years old. And just, I would say, what is the message out to them, Anousheh, from yourself and from myself, please?
So I grew up in a world that was went through a lot of changes. It wasn't pandemics, but it was, you know, revolution and war and a lot of negative things were going around me. But you know, what I learned the way through those times is to remember that nothing in this world is permanent. Everything changes. So every day I knew the next day will be different, and I was always hopeful and positive that eventually those changes will lead to a better day, and that's what kept me going. So whatever you're doing, always stay positive and hopeful, and that makes you do things that will build that hopeful future for you. And it's important not to let people around you bring you down or tell you you can't do things. Even when you're young, you have an amazing imagination, which is the most powerful gift we have as human beings. So use your imagination. I remember I drew my spaceship. I was designing spaceships, new types of spaceships. I was, you know, looking for aliens and building cities, and all those things, even imaginary, helped me, you know, sort of imagine these worlds that some of them have come true, and some things I've been able to make come true throughout my life. So it starts there. And as young people, you have a great gift and the time to put that to use. So use it, express it, and share it with the world.
Let me add on to that. I think hopefully you are seeing that the heroes today in the world are the scientists, the engineers, the mathematicians, the computer scientists, the frontline workers. And so perhaps if you have the capability to be, you know, have some talents in math or science, now is a good time to realize how valuable they are. I think the people who are going to be making the world a safer, better, more vibrant place are our technologists, our scientists, our mathematicians. And so I think we often don't really encourage enough young women and young men to go into that area. So being good at math, being good at science should become a lot cooler. It's good to be great in football and soccer and so forth, but yes, being good in math and science at this time is definitely an important part. All right, a few more questions. How can we contribute as individuals to Xprize, Anousheh?
Again, you can go to our website, and there is a button that will allow you to donate to Xprize as a foundation or to a specific cause. We definitely would appreciate that, and we'll put it to very good use.
So a question comes over, what if nanobots targeting viruses and so forth? So a nanobot is a nanoscale robot, if you would, and our bodies are made up of lots of small machines made out of individual atoms. Like a ribosome is a machine that takes RNA and reads RNA and then assembles amino acids to create proteins. And a virus is itself a nanobot. It is itself a robot. And so can we use that? By the way, there are, I don't think it's an official term, gazillions of viruses. We are living in a world of, like, I don't know, if you Google it, it was like 10 to the 30th viruses and bacteriophage on this planet. There are more of those than there are any other life form. And here's the deal. As right now, your immune system is this massively extraordinary, complex system that is constantly fighting cancers and viruses. It's your protective system, and it's incredible. And there are amazing scientists and engineers. I happen to be working with one of them, Dr. Bob Hariri, who are working on how do we augment your immune system to make it stronger and better. How do we give an older person in their 70s, 80s, and 90s the immune system that someone who's 8 or 12 years old has, right? That would be extraordinary. So do you have news regarding folding at home? How much does people donate their personal? Oh, so interestingly enough, I think I understand what you're talking about. There used to be a effort called Fold It, which was a at-home program that was used by people to predict protein folding, and could fold it. People were donating their time and personal computers to be able to look at protein folding, and then that did the best. But then a program called AlphaFold that came out of DeepMind from Google, using the same kind of machine learning algorithms that were used to win against the game of Go, blew away all the other competition, and is now the best protein folding predictor. So I'll leave it at that. So Anousheh, as we wrap up, I'll see if we have one or two last questions. But so here's one. As part of the frozen world begins to defrost, as a permafrost, could it emit viruses and bacteria from the beginning of time? Maybe, but I don't know. I think a virus could be for sure, but I'm not worried about it. I'm more worried about the economic crisis going on and people not having ventilators. So let's focus on the stuff we can solve now.
And also, let's find a way to make sure our poles don't melt. So
yes,
we keep the viruses inside the ice, hidden.
Anousheh, are you taking part in the Creative Destruction Lab in Toronto? Oh, so am I taking part in part of that? So I'm not. This is which event is this?
So I'm part of CDL Toronto, and I think they're going to have the event virtually this time, and I'm part of it, and I have been excited to meet all the entrepreneurs that come out of the program.
Yeah, and so I'm not scheduled. I wasn't physically scheduled to be there, but now it's virtual. Maybe I can support. We'll see. And will all the C19 Alliance submissions be replied to provide more details?
Absolutely. So we, because it's been just a few days, we're mobilizing the group to be able to put everyone in touch with the right person who can answer the questions. So we've had an amazing response. First of all, let me thank those who have already joined. We have already people who are bringing their research to bear. They have resources they're offering, data scientists who've said, I'm here and have free cycles and willing to help. So thank you, and we will start matching you up, and you should be receiving some emails starting Monday.
So Anousheh, I got to wrap this up in the next 60 seconds to be under the hour cutoff so we can save this.
Sure.
Say thank you to everybody. A real pleasure. Anousheh, always a pleasure to spend time with you. A big hug.
Big hug, virtual hug.
A virtual hug. See you all.
Thank
See you, everybody.
You all.
Bye
Thank
now.
you. Bye.